You just got to think. In about the 1950s, early 50s, Russia, then known as the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics, the Soviet Union, openly told us publicly many times that they were going to conquer us, but that they would do it without firing a shot. They said that they would cause father to fight mother, mother to fight brother, and that they would basically divide and conquer us. Well, along with this, they began taking us over from within, as Nikita Khrushchev promised they would do. They invaded the educational system, pumped in a lot of money to be sure that people with their way of thinking became school teachers, later administrators, later professors in colleges. Now what you have today is an almost completely socialist, communist-minded educational system, United States of America. Your kids can't go to primary school without being indoctrinated by some communist or socialist pig on staff. Well, as they grow up and do this, and they've done this for decades now, those children have gone through 12 years of primary, secondary education, being indoctrinated, right? Then they go to 4, 5, 6, 10 years of college. Again, being indoctrinated. I remember when I was in college, sat down in a math class, and it almost immediately degraded into a political discussion. These teachers, these professors have had far too much leeway. But let's remember this. There were educational programs in the 70s, right into the early 80s, funded, sponsored by communist organizations. They basically said, look, if you're a minority, if you're a black person, we're going to pay your way all the way through college. We're going to pay your way all the way through. And here's what you'll do for us. White folks, hey, if you're of sufficient mind, if we've brainwashed you as well as the others, same thing. We'll pay your way through college. We'll help so you don't leave with all this student debt. But you've got to teach what we want you to teach. They didn't have to do that after the 80s because by then they'd been a good 25, 30 years in the business of propagandizing, indoctrinating, and falsely informing the American people. Simultaneous to this, why do you think the Soviet Union went broke? Simultaneous to this, they made their way into every major press publication, television, newspaper in the country. And as the internet came in the 90s, started building strength and getting stronger, they invaded the web, social media. I mean, they are everywhere. And because they're pushing the same message, all they've got to do is print a news story, tell a little lie, get the blacks to hate the whites. Not hard to do, since we've all been shoved down each other's throats under diversity and equal rights programs by the government. Not realizing the fact that it is human nature for the Italianos to want to live in an Italiano neighborhood, for the Hispanics to live in a Spanish neighborhood, for the French Canadians to live in a French Canadian neighborhood. We all tend to gather around people of our own sort, Catholics, whites, blacks, Jews. We like to, the word is ghettoize. It's an unpleasant sounding word, but that's what it is. We like to gather together in our own cliques and groups. And there's nothing wrong with that. What's wrong is when the federal government says, no, not enough whites in this block, not enough blacks in that block, not enough Jews. We're going to shake it up a little bit. Next thing you know, there's friction because we're being shoved down each other's throats. Then the government turns around under various and countless affirmative action programs saying, look, you had it rough in slavery, my black friends, so you can get into med school with a lower score. That's okay. You can get student loans at a preferred rate. That's okay. In fact, you can get student grants. We'll put you up in your house for free. We'll pay your power bills for free. We'll even get you a car and a voucher. And your education can be essentially free because we owe it to you for the slavery. We just feel so bad about what we did 150 freaking years ago. And this goes on and on. And I feel that just as many blacks resent having the blacks resent having the Hispanics and the Asians shoved down their throat. The whites resent having the blacks shoved down their throat. And the Hispanics. The Asians, they don't like anybody but Asians down their throat. But here's our government in the name of diversity, shoving the minority into the majority. And I have my own term for it. I call it enforced population, relocation, and assimilation. Because for God's sake, it can't go on forever. Our country needs to remain free, That means free to live where you want to live, free to go to school where you want to go, free to live with whom you want to live with, free to go to school with whom you want to go to school, free to work with whom you want to work with. To have quotas shoved down our throat is just as big a crime as when Hitler Germany decided the white people will all be here, the dark-colored people will all be here, and the Jews will all be here. How far are we from that? Huh? I'm Max, and that's the way I see it.